Can you pinpoint the moment that killed your passion for your job? It was a 3-day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and I was already scheduled to work Sunday and Monday. On Saturday, I got a call from work. They needed my telephonic help with something. That didn't require me to go in, so I handled it from home and it took me about 30 minutes. I added 30 minutes to my time card for the work on Saturday, my only day off, and on Tuesday, after his 3-day weekend, my boss tells me the Saturday overtime, 30 minutes, was disapproved because I didn't actually come in. So I just stopped answering my company-paid cell phone outside of work hours. I started working for Radio Shack as a Christmas employee in 1989. When the holiday months were over, they offered me a full-time job and I took it. For the first 4 or 5 months, it was great and I enjoyed coming to work. Then the manager got fired and a new manager took over. At first, he was okay and we got along decently, especially since they'd announced that they were going to move the store to a newly built strip mall where we should see a nice uptick in business. Great! The week of the move, I put in a lot of overtime helping to get the new store set up, putting up shelves, arranging displays, among other things. The weekend we moved, the district manager screwed us. He said he was going to rent a big U-Haul truck and get 15 to 20 people to help us. He did nothing and got nobody, so we were on our own. I worked 36 hours straight, went home for 6 hours sleep, then came back and worked another 12 getting everything moved and set up. The district manager didn't thank me for putting in all those hours and helping. He complained that it took so long to do it and said we were weak. When I went to turn in my time card, my manager didn't want to pay me for all the overtime. He and the district manager tried to convince me to volunteer those hours. When I demanded to be paid, they told me that they might have to let me go because my hours are throwing the store payroll out of whack. I told them that if they wanted to fire me for asking to be paid for the hours I worked, it was fine with me so long as they paid me. After a couple of days of arguing, they agreed to pay me. From that moment on, I didn't give a crap. I started to realize that they didn't care about me and I was just there to collect my check. My moment was when the owners and GM looked at my prostate cancer as a major inconvenience for them. They complained about me being out for surgery and I'd been out less than 2 weeks. I was back after 2 weeks wearing a fricking diaper because I was afraid of losing my job because of my illness. Then they expected me to be concerned whether they made a profit. Yeah, that's likely. My dad went through the same thing. He had prostate cancer and used his vacation time for the surgery. The surgery was in the middle of June, and since he worked in a photography lab where all the photos needed to be developed for weddings, there were a lot of them in that summer. His boss was mad that he didn't postpone the surgery until summer was over. His boss wanted him to delay surgery on a cancer that was already pretty developed so that she didn't have to work as hard. I was a little kid at the time that gave no Fs, but now it makes me mad thinking about it. I'm going to assume that these cases come from a certain United States of a major continent. Try getting away with this in the UK or Europe. My previous job. The owner of the company let go of a secretary due to hard times. It's sad but understandable. He then fired her husband who worked the night shift cleaning crew because I didn't want any retaliation. He took away both sources of income from this family at the height of the recession for no reason other than paranoia. The owner would say, "We're family here." Sure. I frickin' hate that "we're family" bullcrap. We're only family until it becomes even slightly inconvenient. Used to work at a builder's merchant, running the outdoor yard of the place entirely by myself. We should be at least 2 people, 3 people is ideal. Put up with a lot of crap, such as not one single staff bothering to help when it got busy. And it got busy a lot. And being a doormat by working 9 hours straight with no lunch breaks for weeks on end because of lack of staff. Pretty exhausting considering it's manual labor and all outdoors. The bit that got too far was when a health and safety officer showed up one day and decided to write me up for gross negligence of rules even though I was doing exactly what the company told me to do, which then led to me almost losing my job and being on final warning for 6 months. Bear in mind that I'd never had a single warning before, so this was bollocks. Crap like that makes you realize that you're nothing but a freaking number to these companies and actually going way above what you should be doing for a crap job, which is a complete waste of time. If you'd requested lunch breaks and were denied, that's when you call an attorney. You allowed that to happen. An attorney would have told you exactly what to do for a payday and start looking for a new job ASAP. When I was told to peel the remanufactured sticker off the back of the new instruments we were installing for a customer. Worked in big box retail, managed the credit and memberships being sold. Our store had not been in the green in over 7 years. Not only did I take us from the red to the green in 7 months, but had us go from number 26 in our market to number 3. I wasn't given a bonus because I'd only been in my position for 7 months, while cashiers who'd just been there 6 months or fewer did receive a share. Brought it up to the GM and she said it was just how it worked. Not only that, but she expected more out of me, and number 3 should not satisfy me. I got up, walked out of the office, and right out of the front door. They called and texted me for 2 weeks straight. Even offered me a promotion to lead a higher department. I declined politely. I now manage a store and make almost double what I did there. Thanks for the motivation to move on, old job. For 7 years, I had a boss who valued the work people did and didn't care how you arrived at the end of the product. Motivated and innovative employees were recognized and generally received additional responsibility and new challenges. Then came the new boss, who was the textbook example of micromanager and ran the department like it was a 50s assembly line. Watched the amount of time people took breaks, watched the minute people arrived and the minute they left. Achievements were no longer recognized and employees were just cogs in a wheel. If there is no incentive to do anything more than the minimum amount of effort, the minimum amount of effort will be done. Was told they'd be hiring someone full-time with higher pay to do my exact same job and I would no longer be qualified. New me apparently wasn't as good as I was. The boss said she forgot how much was involved with a job. Well, yeah, that's easy to do when you give someone else all the work. My boss has told me many times that there's no set arrival or departure time from work, but the general rule is 4 10-hour shifts from Monday to Thursday. I've been getting some of the worst sleep of my life. It's getting better and I'm working on it. So I've been coming in at around 7:30 to 8 a.m., which is probably half an hour to 45 minutes after most people. I'm not missing anything because all anyone ever does for the first hour is fire off emails. If I have an early meeting, I'm never late. I have no problem staying later than anyone else to finish work. All my work gets done before the deadline every time and I never reject additional work. What does my boss do? Gripes at me for coming in when I do, tells me that that's just because the time clock says I'm clocked in doesn't mean I can bill my time if my computer is still booting up. He's the definition of being penny wise and pound foolish. I went from incredibly ambitious to bare minimum effort when I realized how little he valued me, since I didn't fit his precise stereotype of what a worker should be, even though I get all of my crap done and it's quality every time. When the CEO sneered at me, "Should I call your mother and tell her you can't do your job?" No one had bothered to train me and I wasn't getting paid. So I took my things and left. Never went back. How about we call your mother, because I'm about to have a lot of free time on my hands. Yes, give that final line, sound the air horns, and walk out of the building flipping off everyone as you go. You're better off without that job. Watched as the district manager for GameStop convinced a clearly poor family that their warranty didn't cover their 3DS. I'm pretty sure it did, so I called the hero line or whatever it was to report him. I got fired 2 months later by him the day before my benefits kicked in. See you in hell, motherfricker. God, I hate reading this. I worked for EB Games in Canada for a bit over a year and the assistant manager did crap like this all the time. Not recognizing warranty by twisting words and playing technicalities out. The district manager would also come in once a week and remind us that our priority was to sell Dre Beats and only Dre Beats. Our store was located in a very poor area and no one was going to spend upwards of $600 on a pair of crap headphones. That's rent for most people. And obviously, we failed every month to sell a stupid amount of said headphones. They wanted 10 sold a month and we never sold one. We'd get scolded and put down and promptly compared to a store a few kilometers west in a very wealthy area that would double the sales target. I quit when the assistant manager tried to trick an old lady into buying an entire system when she just wanted a gift card for her grandson. Scummy company. Well, my moment came today. Recently, the company I work for took away commission and replaced it with a bonus of a free pair of jeans from the store. The item gets taxed as well, which is fine. Today we found out we get an item up to $200. The company is American and my store is in Canada. Our dollar is crap, so the prices of the clothes in my store are a lot higher now than before. In the States, that $200 gets you pretty much anything save for 2 or 3 styles of jeans and outerwear. In my store, not a single pair of jeans falls into that category. So I contact the DM and ask if we could get the American price, which would mean we essentially get our free pair of jeans. Nope, it's $200 company-wide for fairness. So I asked if I didn't take my pair of jeans if I would still get taxed. Regardless of if I take the jeans or not, I get taxed on the $200. So they took away my commission, replaced it with a bonus structure I can't use, and get taxed on it anyways. When the new guy who relies on me to do his job got promoted. You made the mistake of being indispensable. If you can't be replaced, you can't be promoted. Once I realized that no matter what I did for the company, nothing changed. When I got told that my colleague and I already got paid too much when we asked for a little extra. We're currently paid minimum wage. I had issues transferring store with an old company because they thought I was getting paid too much. Apparently $1 over minimum wage is enough to choose hiring new, untrained employees over someone who could jump in right away and work efficiently. Retail is stupid. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below, and subscribe. I was the general manager of a small chain of retail stores. My boss closed all but one store and let every employee go except for me. Normally we had 4 employees, not including a manager, working at each store. They weren't doing well and we had to cut down on costs, so I understood, buckled down, and ran an entire store by myself. Not only did he never come up to the only store he owned to check on things, but I wasn't allowed to shut down and leave for lunch breaks, and was too busy to eat there. Then he and his wife started going on these 2-week vacations almost every month. She doesn't work, by the way. He came back once and told me he had to cut my pay and needed me to take over purchase orders and do inventory on the entire store every Wednesday. That was it for me. I started sending people to a similar store down the road and found a new job. There's now a for sale sign on his building. I hope he reads this. In short, my boss put more and more responsibility on my shoulders while cutting my pay and taking elaborate vacations because we were short on funds. I never understood why people think it's okay to ask people to do more for less. Yeah, I think what bothers me the most was that he was this huge Christian and would throw up Christ and church and all kinds of stuff to make himself look like a saint, when he really was probably the most dishonorable man I've ever met. When they did layoffs, during the recession, so I understand, but laid off the people who cared about their job and worked their butts off and kept the people for whom it was like pulling teeth to get them to do anything. Well, that, and also when I was interviewing for a promotion and the interview was 15 minutes of them telling me how much they loved my work and how perfect I would be for that position, and then ended with, "And we're giving it to the VP's daughter." Holy crap, that is so cartoonishly stereotypical of evil retail places that it feels like it should be on the show Superstore. Found out that the product reps were given a ton of free product to the store for the managers to distribute to the sales team. The reps would even give the managers the option of getting a few display-only models for customers to check out, or giving products directly to the sales team for them to describe to the customers. The managers would blatantly lie to the reps and would say that giving them to the sales team would help their sales the most, and then the managers would just take all of it. Then these same managers would blame the sales team 100% for poor numbers at our no-commission position. If they're only looking out for themselves, then I'm doing the exact same thing. Both of my mentors, 2 ladies who saw potential in me that I didn't, and helped me turn my life around, were fired, packaged out, within a week of each other. Fired by people who only had started a few months before and then themselves quit a few months later. The company cut out a whole department and transferred their duties to my department. Now we must do 2 people's jobs for a 52-cent per hour raise, and the strict no overtime policy remains. Fast forward 3 months and the company flies all the managers 3,000 plus from across the US to Florida for a meeting where they rent out an amusement park and have a concert by a well-known artist. Needless to say, I'm now the saltiest of salty employees. I worked sales in a radio station. We promoted the heck out of this concert coming up, and usually if the numbers reached that goal, we would get a bonus for it. Usually, a large bonus. We doubled the attendance, easily beating the goal we had, and I received a $10 gift card to Applebee's. Applebee's. Immediately after I got that gift card, I applied for a new job and ended up leaving. When they asked why I was leaving, I decided to be honest and said, when you compensate someone with a $10 gift card to Applebee's for reaching a milestone for a concert, you won't keep many people. I can't believe a $10 gift card to Applebee's is a thing. Jesus! Good on you. Getting my temp contract extended for another 6 months instead of being brought on permanent, right before they had a brand new training class of permanent direct hires. Their justification for extending? They couldn't afford it. F you, current job. The moment they hired an outside guy and paid him as much as I get to do all the social media work I'd been doing. This is right after a conversation about how great my work has been, and we had a discussion about an increase on my hourly rate due to the extra work. Needless to say, I stepped away from the social media element and they haven't figured out why it's crap now. When I asked for a big fan to be put in our work area to help circulate air, since we were working in 120-degree heat with nothing to move the air around, I was told it wasn't in the budget to purchase another fan. 2 weeks later, I found out that not only did no one check the budget or put in a request for said fan, we had 2 sitting in storage gathering dust. 120 degrees? Who do you work for? Mordor? One does not simply clock into Mordor. Why don't you just skip the trafficy commute by flying in on the Eagles? Have you seen the mileage an Eagle gets? This isn't a joke. I overheard one of my supervisors complaining about layoff season because she wouldn't be able to humiliate us and make us cry as often. My boss won't do anything about her. This happened a few weeks ago. My boss told me to go to one of the project leaders and tell him to stop work at a particular project. So I do that. The project leader goes, "This is ridiculous. This is a $400K job." To which I was like, "Mark told me to tell you. Don't shoot the messenger." So the project leader talks to the operation manager. The operations manager comes up to me while my boss is in the room, goes like, "John, did you tell the project leader to stop work at a particular project?" I say, "Yes, I did." "Why?" "Because Mark told me to." The operation manager turns to my boss, goes like, "Mark, did you tell John to tell the other project leader to stop work at this job site?" My boss says, "No, I did not." There were 3 other people in the room when my boss originally told me to do this, and those same 3 people were also in the room at that moment. No one spoke up. Ugh. Most spineless jellyfish bosses would normally just stammer and try to put it down to a misunderstanding, not outright deny giving the order in the first place. Nuts. When I watched every position above me in my department stay open for a year and my boss's boss wouldn't even interview one of us for any of them. Not one. All while complaining that he can't find candidates despite 3 of us applying for everything. It got to the point where one of us did get promoted. He got promoted by another supervisor that doesn't even work for our department. In fact, he filled every position himself and more or less told our boss to sign the offers. I was promoted to manager and was given no training. Oh, we had a company-wide useless leadership training, but no specific job description or anything. I asked my boss several times, but he was very flaky and vague. So I did what I thought was needed and did a ton of behind-the-scenes work to ensure that our team was running smoothly. Worked with our remote team, implemented and improved our internal processes, and dealt with any personal issues affecting team members. I gave them guidance on their careers when they asked, met with team members weekly to assess how they were doing. I met with my boss for my annual review about a year later and he said I was doing a fantastic job and to keep it up. My boss then avoided me for 4 months. Other direct reports said he was doing the same to them. At our first one-on-one after my review, 4 wordless months later he said, "You're not really acting like a manager. I'm going to make you an individual contributor." When I pressed him for specifics, he refused to give any. He was careful not to tell me I was doing a bad job, but just kept saying I wasn't doing what he expected of me. Which, remember, he refused to tell me what he expected or me as well. This was the meeting where I said, "F this." At a grocery store. When for 2.5 years I warned that someone was going to slip and fall on the faulty loading dock for the trucks because a drip in the ceiling wasn't being fixed by the company or the landlord who owned the building, the drip was landing on the loader, which kept breaking. I griped loud enough, and the solution was to send us pretty much a portable ramp. Since unloading the trucks was a one-person job, having one person drag this ramp around was a hazard in itself. We just couldn't use it. So inevitably, someone slipped and fell on the old ramp. And only at that point, and some injury payout that was kept private, did they replace the faulty ramp that we had. Worked a 12-hour shift, then stayed on an extra hour because it was insanely busy. I received no thanks and was told by management to man up and stay on another hour. Needless to say, I didn't. Damn, sounds like you were in food service. It was a bar, close enough. Got hired as a technical writer, a job I'd been aiming to get for several years. As it happened, the team I joined was a little bit of a rogue element in the company. They had a lot of their own branding, used different chat clients, had a very different outlook on what our company could or should be doing. Most technical writers usually do online help stuff, but I and my 2 closest colleagues did tons of non-traditional tech writer stuff. Helped with advertising, user interface copy, wrote and disseminated newsletters for releases and patches. I built and maintained a very popular internal document repository and lots of other cool stuff that I loved doing. Someone I met at the company once told me that enjoying the work that others hate is the best job security, and she was right. I love figuring out how to organize documents, designing templates for Word and InDesign, making cool GIFs to show off how new product features work, and writing directly to customers. About 1.5 years goes by, and the manager of the company's tech writing team pulls a bunch of strings and absorbs us into his much larger team. I'm officially cut off from my beloved smaller team, directed to never waste time on internal things like the document repository, and told that newsletters are marketing's job and that online help we'd built over the last year had to be redone in his team's methodology. He wasn't wrong, and a lot of what I did was usually what tech writers do, but gosh darn if it didn't kill the love I had for my job. He flat out told me during our first conversation that his goal was to make my job as boring as possible, and that I would always know what each week would bring. He was right about that, too. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.